My next guest I had the privilege to sit down with is a poet and an educator. Within this episode, we explored the origins of the term genderfuck. We also talked about the meaning of trans time, escaping linear time, and holding space for our ancestors. I hope that you enjoy this episode.
Dem Bois. Amplifying, transmitting color voices, yeah, we here making noise, yeah. Visibility equals possibility, you know we them boys, yeah. Amplifying, transmitting color voices, yeah, we here making noise, yeah.
Welcome to Dem Bois Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Aaron, he, him, his. My next guest is a T-boy poet and educator against the state. Their cross-discipline experiments glitch traditional poetic form to construct trans time and non-linear meaning making. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I first want to say I'm just grateful to you, Sean, for this space that you've made over 10 years. And, you know, I know that you celebrated over 100 episodes recently, and just the care and the stewarding that you take of transmasc folks of color, our stories and things. I don't take that for granted. So I wanted to start with some gratitude first.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. So you want to go ahead and introduce yourself for folks to know who you are, name and pronouns?
Yeah, my name is Alexis N. Garcia. My pronouns are they and them. And yeah, I'm a poet, I'm an educator, and I am an advocate like you for possibility and imagination today and always.
Yes, I love that. And I really too want to get into your bio in a second, tour. I really think it's dynamic, and I'm like, wow, I really want to get into like what, and it's a tongue twister. I was like, I need to say this very slowly because saying glitch and traditional, like I was like, my lisp is gonna come out, I'm gonna fuck it up. So
no, you're perfect.
I appreciate it. So I want to make sure I definitely want to talk about like, what does that mean? What does trans time mean, right? And so I love to ask my guests, every guest that comes here, because I think it's an important piece of our story and how we get to choose how we navigate this world, and even with our naming processes, right? And so I want to ask you, how did the name Alexis, how did that name choose you?
Yeah, so it was a name given to me by my mother when I was born. And it's funny because now she's like, it's you know, it's not a gendered name, Alex. You know, she takes credit for it being like a non-binary name. And I really enjoy Alexis. There's something about the X in it that feels like empowering, and like it breaks up the other kind of sounds of my name. I'm also really embracing my middle name, which is Nonoi, Nonoi, Nonoi. It was my grandmother on my father's side. It was her name. And so I've decided to make it more prominent in mine. Because I feel like I do carry her legacy with me, and it feels like my name can also be like an altar space for my ancestors that I want to really hold closer to me. And so, yeah, that's what I want to share about my name. And then Garcia, you know, it's like Mexican as hell, proud to be a Garcia, you know, whenever I'm in like Latina spaces, I'm like, I'm not the only Garcia here, you know? And so it feels like a space of belonging for me that I appreciate too.
I love that of saying like, I won't say love that, but I appreciate that of saying like your name, the holding that in the middle initial is holding an altar. I love that. It's like taking that with you. And for folks that believe that our ancestors are moving and guiding with us anyway, right? And we can tap into them when we need them. My therapist always say souls are busy. So not to say they show up when you call them because they got other shit to tend to, but you know, they're there when you need that guidance of like, hey, this is for you. This is, you know, when you listen. It's different for them to show the fuck up and you like, you know, you running out of the room because you're scared because something moved or, you know what I mean? Some people aren't receptive to the things that they need to be listening to. So let's start with that. But I love that you saying that it's an altar and you're carrying folks with you. I have a physical altar in my home. Not with my name, but just folks that I love and I care about. And I even have some pictures of folks on my altar that I don't know, like my grandfather's parents. I don't know my great grandparents, right? But they're there. But I know that their spirit and their traditions are guiding me. And so just to have them in my space and watching over me and not letting any of the bullshit come in here into my space is very important for me. So I love that you hold that space for that.
Yeah, it's a huge part of my practice too, to also have a physical space. And so we have that in common. And, you know, there's also a space for my partner's ancestors too. We kind of have like a joint ancestral altar, which is really beautiful. And I also have some writers on there too. Octavia E. Butler is on my altar as well. And, you know, just it being a place of reverence, and to like for it to physically have a space in the home means so much to me too. And I feel so, yeah, I want them to, when they call on me, I'm here too, you know, me not just calling on them, you know. I think it could be a reciprocal relationship if you're open to it. But it's also interesting to hold space for people and parts of your lineage that you don't know, right? As diasporic peoples, I don't have all the names of my ancestors. And I think I've been trying to just make space for that unknowing, instead of it feeling, I mean, it still feels like, that's why this archival work too that you do is so important. Because if we're not archiving our own stories, you know, I can't, you know, it's not like I'm relying on the state to do it for me, right? It's like, ooh, that's been something I've been thinking about lately.
Right. And the state will write it in pencil because it would erase it so damn quickly.
Right. Yeah, write it and then rip it, and then, you know, it's not, you know, if they even write it at all, you know.
If they even write it at all. And I was just talking earlier with another guest that I recorded earlier today about the Constitution. They will hold that shit in the goddamn DC in a controlled space. They just worship this, but I mean, it's history, yes, but it's not important to me. Right. I mean, I was the Constitution was written about me, but to limit me, my ancestors. Right. It wasn't about you. Right. Or your ancestors. Right. And so it's like they hold this piece of paper so significant, just so significant, but real true history is quickly erased. Isn't it crazy?
So quick. I heard a fact the other day that the founding, I mean, don't quote me on this. I don't even, you know, but the founding fathers were like teenagers or something when they made that. I don't know, something like that. And
Probably was. They didn't live that goddamn long. If you think about it, they probably was their early 20s and then died at 28. I mean, I don't know.
It's true.
So that's a good, I don't know. I have never discussed how old they were. I just know they were old looking white men. White people look older. Let me not say that. Let me stop. But they were old looking. Right. They were old looking. So I'm assuming, yeah, but they wrote things in place to protect the things that they were doing. And so that the people that are continuing to do what they were doing can still do now. Right. So that's why that piece of paper is so important to them. But it's also very important when people put more power into a paper or something like the Constitution, when they have no other values, no family values. They don't believe in their lineage. They don't believe in listening to their ancestors. So they have to follow this piece of paper because they have no other kind of structure to follow, right?
I feel like my gender sometimes is a lapdog, you know, like, so I feel a kinship with Mr.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Let's talk about that. How do you feel like how do you feel that?
Eager. Eager to be near my loved ones. I think that's a kind of part of myself that I've been more welcoming to. I think people can be off-put by a kind of eagerness that maybe I have or something. I don't know. But I like that. I've learned to love that about myself. You know, I'm like, I hold a kind of I hope to hold a kind of genuineness that people, and like a warmth that people can feel when they meet me.
Oh,
Yeah. So I also used to have like a little Bashan, like a little white
oh,
fluffy dog.
yeah, nice. You know,
And
you just said that you hold an eagerness to you, and that you hope that comes off when people meet you, and that's exactly what you did when we first turned on our cameras, and I was like, oh, I saw that, I felt that. That was a good thing though, right? Because usually people don't meet like they're like, oh, hey, right? You were just like, oh, hey, and I was like, oh, you're in a good mood today, like that eagerness. That's beautiful though. Hold on to that. Regardless if people don't receive it in the way that you want them to receive it, who cares? Keep coming in room with the eagerness, because that eagerness could actually be something that somebody else needs. So I love that. Hold on to that. Don't lose that.
I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
think maybe I'm just putting two and two together, that there's a kind of vulnerability and eagerness,
Mm,
because you don't know how you're going to be received in it. And so there's this kind of like maybe a sort of intimacy that you're reaching for in your eager, like when you're in that mode, that,
mm,
yeah, that I hope that can be, I think too, like my work as a poet, my work as a facilitator, most of all, is, you talk a lot about possibility. And I like to think about, um, like this term, or like this phrase of like a possibility model, um, and like how we can be that for each other, and how, especially within like places where we're helping people imagine otherwise, or imagine alternatives. I like to think about how those spaces can have a warmth to them,
mm.
because writing is an incredibly vulnerable thing. Um, Sometimes when I'm reading poems in public, I'm like, wow, I'm really putting all this out there, I guess.
Yeah.
My whole lineage, my queer, my trans experience, like, but I know how important it was for me to see people, and feel more possible through that. To read a poet and be like, wow, the way that they're wielding language is something I've never seen before, and now I want to try. Like feeling that, possibility from reading or seeing other people is so important.
Yeah. And I think of eagerness as really being like a child. Children are very
Mm,
eager, and it's that innocence, right? Before we grow older and we're told, we're bullied, or we told, usually our parents are our first bullies, right? Or like we
mm,
are just jaded by the world, and then we lose that eagerness. Children, you lose that imagination, and you lose that hope and dreams and all of that things. It's like, oh, the world, womp womp, right? The world
right.
has a way of turning us sour, and so to hold on to that eagerness for me is kind of like, wow, you're holding on to that hope, that dream, that kind of jovial, and being young, right? It's like it's nothing wrong with that at all. We need more of that in our lives, actually, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
so, so
Yeah, I mean, who does it serve too when we can't access play or imagination? And who does that serve? Our day jobs, or
oh
like,
goodness.
the ways in which life and time has been kind of taught to us. Like we are conditioned out of that state
Mm,
of imagination, out of that state of play, um, and taken elsewhere. Um, and so I think about that a lot too. The other day I heard someone say, like, your highest self is actually your child self.
mm,
And I was sitting with that kind of in the same way you're thinking about it, around some, maybe going back to that, trying to like orient back into that state of play, or like unshapeliness, before the world kind of molded us into something else, or tried to and
mm.
failed.
Right, exactly. Exactly. I know there was a thing on Instagram a while back of like black men frolicking in the park. And so that was like a thing too of like just, whatever frolicking means to you, like being silly, right? And just no care in the world, skipping through the dandelions and just being happy and being free, right? How freeing is that to your mind to be like, do, right? And not thinking about the bill that's due, or having to go pick up your child. Well, you should think about picking up your child. Don't forget about that. But, but like other things that weigh so heavy on us that we can just take that moment to free ourselves from that. Right. It's so liberating. I'm sure it may add life or time or hours or minutes to our lives when we do that more often.
Definitely. Yeah. The other day I was with my family and I saw my mom. I don't remember how we got into this topic, but we were talking about skipping and I was like, Mom, let me see you skip. And I saw for the first time my mother skip. Like I have never seen her skip in my lifetime. And it was so joyful. It brought such a smile to my face. I'm like, and when I think about it, I'm like, have I seen my closest friends skip? You know, my friends of 10 years, you know, no, probably not. I mean, that's a good prompt for people to just see what that looks like if you can.
And if you're still coordinated and physically able to do it.
Exactly right. I think that's how it came up because I was like, we're talking about, you know, as I get in my 30s, it's all about gut health, bending my knees, you know, not like locking in. There's a lot about my body that's changing.
2026 marks 10 years of Dem Bois Inc. That's 10 years of community care, 10 years of leadership rooted in love, and 10 years of turning visibility into possibility. And so to honor this milestone, we've launched our 10 for 10 campaign. You're like, Sean, 10 for 10, what's that? So we are inviting you, our listeners, our supporters, our allies, and other folks in the community to give $10 a month to help sustain the care, leadership, and visibility that trans men of color deserve. And so 10 years is a very long time, right? That's a decade. Can you imagine raising a child for birth and then looking at them at their 10th birthday party and being like, wow, you've watched so much of their growth within that 10 years, right? That's the same for us. And so Dem Bois Inc., over the 10 years, we have done a lot. And so we have provided gender affirming surgery grants to trans men of color to obtain gender affirming surgeries. We started this podcast. We are now in season 4 of the podcast in 2026. We created our Visibility Equals Possibility merch. We partnered with Emilio and Zion, both trans men of color, to design what visibility equals possibility means to them. And it's reflected in our merch. We also partnered with the Black trans man, Mola Flow, to create our theme song. And that's the music that you hear every time you tune into Dem Bois Podcast. We've done merch. We've done partnering. We have delivered care packages to trans men of color in need of personal hygiene items within our community. We have done a lot in 10 years. And so imagine what the next 10 years would look like. Donating $10 a month says, I believe in this work. I believe in the future of trans men of color, and I believe in what comes next. And so if this call resonates with you, join us today. And we've even made it easy. You don't even got to go anywhere. Whatever platform you're listening to this episode, go ahead and open up the show notes. And from there, you will be able to click the link to start your contribution to our 10 for 10 campaign. Your monthly support helps ensure Dem Bois can continue showing up for our community with intention, care, and impact. So thank you for listening and thank you for believing in our mission. Okay, and I'm going to get out of here so you can listen to this episode. Take care.
So I want to ask you, just tell us your gender journey, how it began from how, when you had a sense of who you were up until now.
Yeah, well, going back to childhood, I think, I always really disliked dresses. Like it was very classic, there's pictures of me that, my mom would put me in a dress and I looked so like unhappy and just like, no, I wanted to be playing with my older cousin. He's like 4 or 5 years older than me. And he was kind of my first model of like boyhood. He was a skater, he had the Star Wars action figures, the G.I. Joes, and I always wanted to play with his toys, and I always wanted to I didn't get into skating at all. I couldn't do it. My poor little ankles. But I saw the kind of like ease, I guess, is how I was translating it as a kid that he had, I think, like in his embodiment.
Mm.
And I think that stuck with me, but I went to an all-girls Catholic high school, and that was like, it was very taboo to be queer, very taboo to be, to present any other way, really. And so I couldn't come out then. I didn't feel safe. Um, but probably in my like 15, I was like, all right, like I'm definitely queer. Came out to like a few chosen friends, and I was going through a lot during that time. I lost my abuelo. My
Mhm.
parents were like fighting and going through their divorce a little bit earlier than that, and so it really affected me. Um, and grew up in San Diego, and I was like not doing well in school, so there's only a few opportunities for me for college, and I was like, San Francisco State, like I'm
Mm.
going and I'm gonna be gay, like I was like, this is it, like I didn't apply to any schools in San Diego. I left and my hair just kept getting shorter and shorter. I think I left with it like down to my shoulders, and then when I was 19, this person I loved cut my hair short, and it was like this major moment of like, and just closer, I guess, to my embodied, more comfortable, I guess. But I didn't have like, non-binary trans language yet then. I think and I also felt like, my experience of lesbianness was very white. And I learned
Mm.
obviously later in life that that was just not true, that there's a whole black and brown lesbian tradition that I could have been in touch with, but I just wasn't at that time. And so it was kind of, I came to my transness a little bit later, probably like in my late 20s, where I heard the term genderqueer for the first time. And I was like, oh, this is actually what I've been feeling my whole life. Um, and so I started going by genderqueer. And then I was playing with my pronouns because I met someone who was also um, had gotten top surgery, and it was like the first person I'd met who got top surgery, and that person was going by she they, and I was like, wait, you can be a she they,
Mm.
I was like, I'll try it, she they, um, and then I was with a partner at the time didn't who was a little like was just not into the they part of my identity,
Mm.
and it was really hard for me because I think I was performing a kind of masculinity at that time that I thought was expected of me. Like I was still kind
Mm.
of recreating like a heterosexual relationship, where I felt like I had to like really, the masculinity that I was like performing was like, I am a provider. I can still, even though I'm queer and like, and using she, they, like I'm this kind of I don't know. There's some weird gender stuff that was happening. Um, and as soon as we broke up, I was like, I started T, it was like a little bit before then I was going by they, them. Cause I moved around a lot during this time. I was in San Diego, I was in San Francisco, I was in New York City, I was in
Oh,
San
wow.
Diego. Now I'm back in the Bay. So that location change also did so much for me. There's so many incredible trans kin in New York City that I got to know while I was there. And, um, when I moved back to San Diego, it was during the start of the pandemic, and I was still going by she they at the time, and I was like, you know what? I was only doing it because people to make other people feel more comfortable.
Mm.
That's what I came to terms with. Was like, oh, actually, I'm like allowing them to just see me the way they've always seen me and use the same pronouns and not challenging them because it was more comfortable for them, actually. Um, and so that really brought me to embracing they them full time. And yeah, I think it'll be my 4 years on T next month.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And
Congrats.
thank you. I was reflecting, I was like, wow, all my entire 30s I've been on T. And like, and so yeah, it's an ongoing thing. Recently I heard a phrase called gender fuck
Oh,
for the first time. And it was through this book of an archival text by this writer named Caro de Robertis, who interviewed a bunch of trans elders. And this was something that an elder named Tina Valentin Aguirre coined, this gender fuck, category. And I kind of love it. It's very much like, I kind of like being more like a gender trickster, and just playing within these spaces, and not feeling like I have to be a fixed thing. So that's how I've been thinking about it lately. So and I'm just so grateful that there's so many there's so many ways to identify. And T-Boy has also been something that I've liked because of how playful it is. And I know that, I don't know. So that's where I'm landing currently.
First, I want to say that you went to San Francisco State, and so did I.
Woo!
So we're not that far away from each other. I did not graduate from San Francisco State, though, because if you know a little bit of my story, I was homeless when I first began San Francisco State. And so I didn't feel clean. I wasn't able to take a shower. I was living in my car. And so I mentally declined. And so if you're not in the mental capacity to do anything, or you don't know where you're going to sleep, you're going to eat, it's hard to be in class. And so I kind of fizzled out. And also, and I don't regret it, though. At first I did upset about it, but I also think that that's just not what the universe had for me. And I was doing something that wasn't of my own design, is what I won't say parents, excuse me. I won't say parents. Jeez. My mom and my grandmother thought that I should do. And so it wasn't what I was designed to do. So that's first thing. But we also live near each other. You're south of me. I'm in the Bay Area as well. And so I'm on the other side of San Francisco, on the other side of Oakland. And so that we're neighbors. That's amazing.
Neighbors.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
So I want to ask you said 4 years on T. And so I want to ask you, and for folks that choose to start medically transitioning, that's your own personal journey, right? But I want to ask you, what is the difference between your first shot and your shot next month? That would be 4 years.
That's a great question. I think, well, I'm on the daily gel. Okay. That's my, so I'm on a daily gel. And I think I remember my first time putting it on my shoulder. And actually I was with my current partner, and they helped me put it on, and they kind of took a little bit for themselves. And it was a really beautiful experience. And also I was like about to catch a train and leave New York, and there was a lot going on. And so I felt, because of the compression of time and needing to be somewhere, and just the act of getting on a train after that, it felt like, and I write about this too, but it felt like I don't think anyone prepared me, and I'm still processing this. So but I like to think of myself in the multiple, there's a ton of selves that are just like present in me at any given time. But there was a self that I left at that station that I think about often. Like I think there was something about there being, movement, but there's a self that I left at that station that I think I'm still trying to get in touch with. And maybe it's because I was like was really excited and longing for this moment. And I think there was the self that longed for the moment, and then the next self that was in it, or like moving towards that. And so I think about that self a lot. And I think that, first of all, there's so many ways of being trans, and I was trans before taking tea, and I feel like my baby selves were also trans, and like, in all their ways. Like, I think of it like such a wide spectrum, and I don't think that the only way to be trans is to take tea. And it's a journey. Again, like you said, it's a personal journey. I may stop, I may go back on it, I may, it's kind of it depends on what you want for yourself. But in terms of this next I guess milestone of 4 years, I feel so much closer to myself than I've ever felt. So much closer to my body. I think for a lot of the time, I was really socialized a certain way around just that, like, caring for others, and like that I didn't have any needs or something. Like I was there to be of service, and I didn't have any needs, and not even having the language. Like, I was, I think, too, like, there was a lot of things that I was unable to language, or like had a narrower kind of spectrum of feelings. Like, the way that I would process things would be like, I'd process it, and then I would just get sad and silent. I think now, like, being on tea for this long, I think anger is a new emotion for me. And just like,
no joke.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah.
It's and I think anger can be really sacred too. In terms of, like, even just allowing yourself to feel it and to, like, hold it. I'm not trying, not in like a toxic way where I'm like, but just like, I don't know. I just never had that voice within me before. And that feeling can be a really strong advocate for me. And instead of something to, like, or something I can't access at all, which is how I think I felt pre-T, where it was more like I just got sad and quiet, and now I'm like, I still get sad and quiet. Make no mistake. But I think there's this other part of me that's become that alive or something, where I'm like, oh, okay, like, there's a lot to be mad about. There's a lot to be mad about, and yeah, I honor that, and some of it can be ancestral too.
That's a very good point. Very good point. They say trauma lasts with the 7 generations. Yeah. So, yeah, especially when you're in touch with things and your ancestors, and to know that, some shit happened to my great, 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 and we still pissed off about that shit. And it's showing up in my body and my nervous system right now, because it's never been healed. It's never been reconciled.
I feel that heavy. I feel that. Yeah. Because there's a lot of, I don't know all the ancestors that I have, but I know that on, like, the women in my family, the generations of women in my family, I know that there's are things that they could never have processed in their lifetime,
Right.
that I feel somewhat, that I make space for, I think, or try to.
And we have a privilege in this moment that we're in now, right? For several reasons. One, I think that we are in a time of evolution, and so it's like evolution of language. There's new languages popping up. There's new languages being revisited. You just said you just learned about gender fuck, right? And so there's the languages. People are now having the space. I hate when people say, "Oh, trans folks just now showing up" or whatever. No, we always been here. Trans identities have always been here for generations. but we're having a new we're having an awakening of a new language of how to explain who we are and how we feel about ourselves. We have access to things like mental health services for folks that can tap into those things, right? And so we're able to heal some of that stuff that our great grandmother didn't get to heal. And they were in a place of survival. So it's like, I need to make sure these kids survive. I need to take care of this husband and all of these things, right? But they didn't have time to process the sexual trauma, the physical trauma, all of these things, right? But we're in a place right now, in a place of privilege where I'm going to take all that trauma from all these generations that my people didn't get to work on. And I had a capacity to sit in my therapy session and work through some of that shit because I don't want to pass that on generation after me. Right. And so I think it's an important place to be in right now, especially when you take advantage of all of avenues of healing that you can. Right. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
The Visibility Equals Possibility collection has new designs and a new designer, me. My name is Zion, pronouns he, him, his, and I was on episode 53 if you want to go back and check that out. But I am the second trans man of color to design for the Visibility Equals Possibility collection. Dem Bois believes visibility equals possibility, and so do I. I am honored to take part in this groundbreaking collection and look forward to seeing what else the collection has in store. My designs represent having confidence and courage to be bold with your visibility. The design, in my mind, says, take the caution you need, but I am here. I hope you all enjoy the designs, and be sure to purchase some designs from me or Emilio to support gender-affirming programs by Dem Bois. Find the amazing designs of the Visibility Equals Possibility collection and other merch items that I've designed on the Dem Bois shop at dembois.org. That's DEMBOI as in igloo, s.org. And remember, visibility equals possibility.
And speaking on healing, I want to ask you a question. So I'm not going to ask you like close your eyes or anything like that, but I want you to envision, and maybe if you can, what is that person that you left in the train station? What do they look like? What do they feel like? Who are they? Who is that person that you're trying to find that you left behind?
Well, I think their skin is glowing because the way the tea worked on my face. I mean, I remember the skin of the before times. No, but I love them so much, I think it took a lot of courage to name and step into step on that train, right?
Mm-hmm.
To like, I think about longing as like a kind of time travel. Because when you long for something, you're seeing yourself in the future having it or something, or like there's a feeling of that. And so that self that I'm thinking about is still with me all the time. And I think I'm just like holding them close. And I think I was wearing my partner's shirt that I loved, and it said "genderless, less gender." It was like a black long sleeve, and yeah. And I was like heading to a writing conference, and yeah, I just want to send them love, send them ease, and just know that like I got them, and like I'm holding them still.
And so is it important for you to have a reconnection with that person, or is it just more so you want to honor that person that you left behind, to actually visualize them and honor them and then move forward?
I think, it's interesting because as someone with abandonment issues, to even think about leaving a self behind is hard. It's like, I don't want to do that to myself. And so I think it's an honoring, it's a gratitude, and it's a like, you're coming with me, even though there was this physical and like metaphorical train ride, you're still with me, and we're doing it. Yeah.
I love that. I want to talk about your bio. Let's jump into that, because I want to know what it means. I know folks that are listening want to know what it means, and so it says, you mind if I read it? Just the snippets.
Go for it.
Yeah. It's educator against the state. Your cross-discipline experiments glitch traditional poetic form to construct trans time and non-linear meaning making. First of all, the first part that I'm looking at is trans time. And I'm always talking about reclaiming my goddamn time. And if it's called trans time, I want it. All of my damn minutes, seconds, hours, all of that. But like, what does this mean? Like, obviously against the state, we know what that entails, right? But I'm gonna let you have it. Tell us what does all of that mean?
Yeah, I appreciate you sitting with it and being curious about it, and I appreciate that whatever trans time means, you want some of it. You're living it. You're living it is what I first want to say.
Okay.
The way you experience time as a trans person is your trans time. I think what I've been I got obsessed with time in the past maybe 5 years, and like really when I was starting to have a second puberty in my 30s.
Yes.
Because it's like I'm suddenly in touch with myself. My first puberty, right? It's like your second puberty, especially in your 30s, it's like, whoa, what is happening? I am sweaty. I am feeling things. Yeah, I'm stinky.
Yeah.
My whole, like, I am feeling things I've never felt to a depth that I've never felt them. I am horny. I am, and I think already that, like, thinking about time in that way, I'm like, okay, I'm thinking about the first puberty and the second puberty, and that feels like something that was unique to my understanding of time. It's like the space between those two puberties collapsed for me. And I was able to look back at the first one and look at the second one, and there was just like those selves in conversation with one another. And so when I think about trans time, I think about nonlinearity and like being outside of the prescription of time, of capitalist time, of the heterosexual milestones of a life, of like going to school, meeting, settling down. And not to say that trans people can't have those things at all, but I think there was certain milestones that I never that I was like, I could see them happening over there, but I was over here, and now I'm like sweaty at 31 and stinky and like trying to figure out and like closer to myself than I've ever felt, in terms of like closer to my body, and like understanding that for a good amount of time I was like actually disassociating and like from the state of my body. And like so trans time for me is just it's kind of a prompt. It's kind of like we are non-linear beings, and we can explore that, and there are actually a lot of different kinds of time that we can look at that can teach us about how to be. Like I look to nature a lot as well around like what is trans time. I look at, I have a hummingbird feeder outside of my window.
Oh, nice.
And I think about the way that that hummingbirds traverse the worlds. They can go backwards, forwards, side to side, even just saying like, I have a self that was on that train platform. It's like, being in touch with that person, being in touch with the little person that hated the dresses that my mom put me in, being in touch. Like there's a whole like group of me behind me. So when you're talking to me, I'm never alone, because I'm with myself in that way. And so trans time is kind of also like looking back and looking forward at the same time. Yeah, being kind of in this like past future mode, and honoring the selves that are still with you. And so that's what I mean by trans time. And I guess my poetry is where I'm exploring like nonlinear meaning making, and poetic form in particular. So I could talk about this for so long, so I'll give you like a very brief version. But I love fucking with the sonnet. So the sonnet is, maybe you think of Shakespeare. Maybe you think of like, the Sicilian courts of the 1200s. I don't know. It's a very patriarchal form. But it actually translates to little song, sonetto, little song in Italian. And there's a part in the sonnet called the volta. And the volta means the turn. And it's a movement in the sonnet. So there's like, it's a 14-line poem. And at the end, there's usually a word that rhymes with the next line, And the volta is where the poem changes its mind. It completely breaks from the form and does something else. And I thought it was such an interesting thing to explore as a trans person. You have this poem that's set up and then it changes its mind. And I feel like the fact that this form has held transformation like that since it began is such a fun place to play as a trans person. And to use this poetic form that's been around since the 1200s, for my own mischievousness, feels like a reclamation, or like making space within a tradition that was never built for me to use it. And I like to play in those places. It's like, yeah, this was never meant to hold me, and now it's holding me. So, gotcha, kind of, or like, and my poetry has always been a place where I've gone to flip power dynamics on their head. It's like, this is the page that I come to. You're on my page now. So this is like,
you're in my house now, like people say. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And so you mentioned writing, you mentioned poetry. What you trying to say? Does that mean you got something coming out soon, or being released soon? What's happening with this?
Yeah, so my first book.
Yes.
My first book is coming out with Host Publications, spring of 2027. It's been like 8 years in the making, but maybe a lifetime. I was writing poetry when I was a kid.
Nice.
It's always been a place for me to make meaning. And actually it's called Time as a Silly Boy. That's like the working title. And part of it is actually like, when I was a kid, I made like little poetry books at school. And so some of the scans in the book are also like scans from me as a kid. So I'm kind of like co-creating across time.
That is beautiful. So it's like stitched together, like all the different parts of you. That's just you. Your book is trans time. In a way, right? Yeah. I love that. Oh, man. Time is a Silly Boy. Is that what it's entitled? And so for folks that are listening and they want to cop them, they want to get one. They want to get a copy in 2027. How will they do that?
Yeah, so my publisher will have them via their website, host publications. You can DuckDuckGo it, and it'll probably be up on Bookshop as well. Please don't buy from Amazon if you can't. Bookshop also does discounted. They match Amazon, and then the money goes to independent bookstores as well. So I understand that there are, Amazon deals, but the Bookshop does the same thing for folks. And yeah, and hopefully I get to choose like 25 bookstores where I want the book to be. So I'm working on that list now. So if folks want to reach out to me and tell me where they'd like to see it, I would love to make sure there's some. Oh, and also request it from your local library too. I love the library.
Yes.
And the library is there for you, truly.
Yeah. I love the library too. I grew up in a library. I used to get teased because I was in the library, but I'm a grandfather, so I have a 2-year-old granddaughter. So my day to pick her up from school. Yes, she's in school. She's a next level 2-year-old. But my day to pick her up from school is on Fridays. And so that was what I decided to do with her on Friday, was to take her to the library. She loved it. She was walking. She was like, wow. So we sat there and because I remember like when my mom was in her purest self, when she enjoyed being a parent and she didn't have all the trauma from, my siblings' father. She was a mother who loved to take me to the library and to read to me. And so I wanted to make sure that I create a memory like that with my grandchild. And so we checked out books, and it was like it's like a mystery book set. So they put it in a ribbon. You don't know what the fuck you're gonna get. And crazy enough, when we got home and I undid all the books, one of the books was called something about drag queens. I can't remember what it's called. Either way, that was her favorite book out of the bunch. And so the libraries are so important. If folks that are listening, if you visit a library, make sure you request this book in your library so other folks can have access to it. Oh, and I want to ask, are you going to try to get into San Francisco State's library?
I would love to. I know that would be definitely a full circle moment for sure. Yeah, I have to reach out and see if that's possible. They also have a poetry center at the top of the Humanities building where I used to be the literary magazine editor-in-chief, and like in my fingerless gloves era, like read poems up there. So I may have to bring the fingerless gloves back if I'm invited to read there. So, if anyone wants to see me do that.
Yeah, so anybody listening, if you got a plug at San Francisco State, get Alexis' book in there and so we can bring them fingerless gloves back.
Hey, this is Jackal from Stealth, a Transmasculine podcast. Join me and my co-host Kai as we interviewed transmasculine elders about their experience growing into their authentic selves. The term stealth highlights two important facts. That one, for our generation, we were often told to hide our past and live an underground existence. And that due to that, our stories are very often overlooked. Throughout our lives, each of us has had to navigate issues of disclosure, which have impacted us in many ways. We also have a member section where you'll get to hear some amazing transmasculine history from Black jazz musicians to Mexican revolutionaries. We hope you join us for season 5 as we continue to emphasize that transmasculine folk have always been here and that we will continue to be here. Be sure to check out our website, transmasculinepodcast.com.
Libraries are very important. It was a joy in my life. I felt so smart there because none of my other friends were there. I was there. So it's very important. So I want to make sure that we spread the love. Folks, get a copy of your book.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Yeah, for sure. And so I want to, what I did want to ask you was, who is supporting you right now in this moment in your life?
I will say my mother is a big support. I talk to her every day. Probably call her after this. She's a huge support, and when she's come to my poetry readings, and she always tells me her wings grow. She like levitates when she sees me, and she's been a huge help. And my partner too, is a huge support. Their name is Monte, and we're in this tea for tea, beautiful homemaking space together. And I'll say the hummingbirds that come and visit me, I think I have really hard days, and I hear them come, and I look out and I'm like, wow, okay, I'm on a planet. They love the nectar I'm putting out, so I'm feeling so good, because I'm like, tell your friends.
It's so funny. That is so
I'll
funny.
always have some.
That's so cute. I love that. I used to have a bird feeder, but then I used to do that too. Like, oh, go tell your friends, all the birds should come. And then one day I looked out there and I saw a squirrel hanging upside down getting the damn bird seed. So I was like, oh yeah, no, that got to come down. How you stealing the birds' food? That is just selfish. How the fuck you even get up there? Was my question.
The squirrels really can climb, and it's wild to me. I see them in incredible positions, and I'm like,
you just greedy. That's what it is. You just goddamn greedy that you willing to risk your life upside down and get somebody else's damn food. But they don't come for hummingbird nectar though, do they?
No. Luckily, no. It's in a very I have like a heart-shaped feeder, so the nectar sits in the middle, and it's not accessible. I don't think they want it. I think they want the seed. They want the nut, but they don't want the nectar.
Okay. So the hummingbird really have to get up close to extract the nectar from the middle of the heart?
Yes. Yeah. And I'm lucky too, because my neighbor across the way has had 2 hummingbird feeders up. And so the fact they're already know that there's food over here, so now they just come over to my balcony. Yeah. So he really set the groundwork for us. But I'm feeling so good when I see them. Yeah.
That's so calming. Yeah,
and my abuela passed away. We were really close. She passed away a few years ago, and
sorry.
And she was in her 90s. She lived a long life. But at the days that leading up to her passing, there was a hummingbird that came and visited. I could see it come up to her window and she was on the 4th floor. There was no nectar around, no flowers and things. And I remember it was just such a light during this time. And so when I see them come, I think about her, and I know she's visiting me through them too.
Beautiful. Alexis, this is the part of the show where I love to ask my guests this random ass question. So you've been listening to this episode, so hopefully you don't pick one that you know the question. But I got 84 questions, and you know how it goes. This may not have anything to do with the fuck we talked about today. So just pick a question between 1 and 84 and I'll read you that.
I was curious about the 83rd question.
Yo, now I'm telling you, always saying it's not going to have nothing to do with what we talk about, but I swear people literally pick questions that have something to do with what we talk about. This is the instance. So number 83 says, what does freedom look like and feel like for you?
That's such a beautiful question.
And it's kind of what we've been talking about in a way.
Yeah. I think I find a sense of freedom when I'm feeling in deep alignment with my body. That happens when I'm working out, and I can be really conscious of my breath and how my body is working with my breath. And I feel that's a similar feeling when I'm teaching, and there's something that a student I'm working with is understanding, and in their understanding is helping me deepen my understanding about. There's this feeling that I get full body chills. I kid you not. I have to I don't feel that all the time in my life, but when I'm teaching, that's when I feel that, where I'm like, wow, I can literally feel in my body what learning can do. or like, yeah, what it feels like. And so I'll identify those two moments as like an embodied sense of freedom and connection.
Beautiful. What age group do you teach?
I teach a wide range. Right now, I'm interning at a community college, so there's a wide range of ages that I work with, from 18 to folks coming back to school in their 40s, their 50s, and I teach outside of academia too, and it's a wide range. So it doesn't matter who or like what age. I think there's just something about being able to like really feel when learning is happening. Yeah, there's no other feeling like it, I don't think.
That is eagerness. Yes. And it's in the connection. That's how you know you're doing something that you're meant to do. When it feels so good like that. I want that. That's what I get when I'm here. When I'm able to sit here and I'm able to share stories. And sometimes I just listen in awe of people, of what they have to say, right? This is a privilege. The screen, for folks that can't see us, but that will see us via video, but the screen that I'm on and the screen that you're on, this is a privilege for you to allow me to use this platform to share your story with the world. And I don't take that for granted. And every time I turn on my mic and I meet folks, some folks I already know, some folks I don't, right? And so I never know what the stories are going to be. I never know what people are going to say, what they're going to ask of me. Maybe we're going to talk about something traumatic, or maybe we're going to talk about something joyous, or I don't know, something scary or whatever. I don't know, right? But I'm here as a vessel to allow you to share your story. And so to me, that gives me pleasure, and it gives me that same feeling you get when you feel someone learning something that you're teaching them. And so it's that same feeling, and the same feeling of purpose in doing what you're supposed to be doing. And so I really appreciate you for taking the time out to come here and to share your story with folks. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. Thank you for the work that you do and for holding our stories with generosity and with curiosity. And like, yeah, again, 10 years, over 100 episodes. I mean, this is incredible work that you do. And I just hope that you know how many people are grateful for you.
I appreciate that. And before we get out of here, is there any last thing you want to say for folks?
I want to say that your imagination is so fucking important. Creating things, creating art against the state, creating art to affirm who you are. I just feel like there's so much happening in the world that is trying to take our imaginations from us, or that rely on us not being imaginative. I don't know. And I just want you to know that I love your imagination and we need your imagination, your creativity in this world. And that whoever's listening, I hope to meet you someday. And I'm sending a lot of love and a lot of ease into wherever this podcast finds you.